Let's begin in the key swing state of Wisconsin. Trump won the midwestern state by less than 1% in 2016, but his slim margin there is unlikely to hold. Let's cross to our correspondent, Will Deneslow, in Milwaukee. Will, what's it been like there today in terms of people casting their last-minute votes?
Well, I've been in Milwaukee, which is the biggest city in the state of Wisconsin. There were huge lines at a polling station. I spent pretty much the whole day in. Some working there said that the turnouts at 7 a.m. at local time when the polls opened was some of the longest they had seen. At the particular poll station I was at, the polls did quieten down substantially. That, however, certainly wasn't the case across the state. Some long lines seen in other key parts of the state. Of course, as you rightly mentioned, incredibly important swing state, one that President Trump won 4 years ago by less than 23,000 votes. Now, heading into election day, more than half of the state's registered voters had already cast their ballots, either through mail-in voting or through the early voting process. But 8 p.m. Local time here, which was just about an hour ago or so, was when the poll shut, not only for in-person voting, but also for absentee voting as well in the state. So now, essentially, all the polls that could be counted will be counted. However, are we expecting a result imminently? That's certainly unrealistic. All those votes are having to be counted. Some say it could take well into Wednesday here in the US for us to get a sense of who has won this crucial battleground state.
Well, explain to us here in New Zealand why this state is so important.
Well, essentially, it only brings with it 10 electoral college votes. It might not seem that much when you compare it to the likes of Florida, Pennsylvania, that has 20 by comparison. But if the votes go the way they do, with the likes of President Trump winning the likes of Florida, Pennsylvania, then this Rust Belt becomes incredibly important, as we just need to look back to the last presidential campaign where the Rust Belt flipped from Democrat to Republican. And that was seen as a huge means for the president, for Donald Trump to win election in 2016. Of course, looking at Wisconsin alone, it had voted Democrat in every single presidential race until 2016 since 1988. That just gives you a sense of how solid the Rust Belt was for the Democrats until 2016. If former Vice President Joe Biden wants to win re-election, then that could certainly be seen as a major route to do through, which will be through Wisconsin and the rest of the Rust Belt, states like Pennsylvania, states like Michigan.
So what has changed since Trump flipped this state, which could swing it back?
One thing that is critical in the minds of voters here in Wisconsin is the coronavirus pandemic. Just to put into scale just the type of battle that Wisconsin is currently facing, more than 2,000 deaths here in the state alone, more than 200,000 coronavirus infections. It now ranks third in the entire United States when it comes to COVID cases per capita. So that just really plays a huge mind in the mind of many voters. Law and order is also seen as a crucial issue in the minds of voters as well, considering the fact that just in August we saw the shooting of Jacob Blake that sparked protests in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and across the state as well. For Republicans, law and order is seen as a huge issue in their minds. For Democrats and for former Vice President Joe Biden, his message here in Wisconsin is one of unity.
Thank you for joining us, Will. That's Will Deneslow there in the very important state of Wisconsin.